Transformar e Pôr em Ação, fisioterapeutas de excelência nas nossas UTIs. Nós estamos no ar com mais um episódio do nosso podcast UTI Informe em Ação. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos.
Olá, pessoal. Estamos aqui juntos para mais um episódio. Eu sou o Sancler, fisioterapeuta intensivista, e junto da Débora, a gente está aqui para mais um episódio do podcast UTI Informa e Ação. Entre no nosso Instagram, chame a gente para conversar e conhecer um pouco mais sobre o nosso trabalho e trocar mais experiências e conversas. Well, today we are here together for a new episode, and we have a very special guest today. It's our birthday, not birthday, it's anniversary month in September, and we are on air for the last 3 years, and every September we get to make special. Yeah, that's great. That's a long time. And we get to have special guests for special episodes. And today it's not different. It's such an honor for me and for Deborah to receive a guest like the one we have today. Today we're going to talk about mobilization in the ICU, a global vision, and someone really special is here with us. That's Peter. I'm going to try to say his name correctly. It's Peter Nydahl, and he's in Germany. He's from Germany. He is a registered nurse and with master degree. He's a PhD, and he's a research at the university hospital in Germany that I also can't pronounce the name, but I think that he can. And Peter, thanks a lot for your time. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Your research is really important for the ICU, for the rehabilitation, for us here in Brazil. And I hope we have a great time in the conversation about what do we need to do to make better rehabilitation for our patients.
Thank you so much for being for having me here in the podcast. It's a great honor for me, especially in the September issue. So I'm really pleased and honored. And I have to admit, I'm a big fan of Brazilian physiotherapy. Yes, we talked about this already. I read some papers from Brazil, high quality papers, and I'm deeply impressed about the 24-hour presence of physiotherapists in Brazil. We don't have this in Germany. When I talk to my colleagues, physiotherapists, about evening shift, they say, no time, I have to go to my family and so on. And when I start talking about night shift, they don't understand me. They think I'm talking about nurses night shift. No, physiotherapists night shift, never heard. But I see the advantage, presence of physiotherapists 24 hours, like improving mechanical ventilation, secretions management, and so on and so on. So I would love to have Brazilian physiotherapists here in Germany.
We can make an exchange like experience.
Yes. So some nurses come to Germany to help us, to improve our nursing resources, of course, and maybe some nurses can go back to Brazil, and physiotherapists can also come. Would be amazing. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, hi Peter. Welcome to our podcast. Let me say that it's a pleasure for us having you here today. You are a reference for us in Brazil. We read your papers, and I have been following your work in your publications and your talks at the LICES European Conference. It's amazing. It's a special moment during the conference, and I'm very happy for this moment. Thank you very much for your time. And can you introduce yourself, or it's okay for you?
Yes, of course. So I'm a nurse. I'm just a nurse, and started more than 30 years ago in critical care in an ICU. And after my first training, after 1 year roundabout, I get all the routines and schedules and so on. So I felt secure and like an experienced nurse. And then I started asking, what will happen to our patients when we discharge them? because we discharge everyday patients, but we hopefully never see them again. Some came back with complications and so on. But my question was, how do they feel afterwards? How can they move, and what about their cognition and muscle strength and so on? And then we performed a questionnaire survey sent out to 360 surgical patients, critical care patients, and only the half returned. And we noticed there were a lot of letters from families. He or she died afterwards, and he could not respond, of course. But a lot of patients talked about their experiences while they were on the ICU, like the noise, the light, and lying in bed, being restrained, and all the things, hallucinations, and confused day and night rhythm, and so on. Sorry. And so I started asking, what can I do today to improve the outcome of our patients? And then the question of rehabilitation come into my mind. And sorry, I'm asking this question also today. So what can I do today to improve the quality of life of my patients after 1 year or even longer? And then I learned a very special nursing rehabilitation concept in Germany. It's called basic stimulation. That means when people are really severe, ill, disturbed consciousness, like being in coma or unresponsive wakefulness syndrome and so on, you can improve your care. Doesn't matter if you're a physiotherapist or a nurse, by asking, who is this person? What is the personal background? What is the personal experiences? What is the favorite food, for example? And then we ask the family, what did he or she like? Then we say beer. German beer is amazing, by the way. And then we
know that.
I'm sorry. And then this was in the middle of the 1990. And then we made mouth cleaning with beer. Of course, it was feasible. We had alcohol on the ICU during these years, and we noticed, wow, patients started tasting and they become more awake and so on. We invited the family to talk to the patient, sing songs and say prayers and so on. And we noticed, wow, there's a lot of more awareness when they talk to the patient compared to me, to an unknown person and so on. We had one patient who didn't wake up, who was a secretary. And I went home and had an old typing machine and recorded the sound, tick, 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 bing, tick, 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 bing. And next day I played her this sound and she opened her eyes first time and so on. We had a patient who had a very difficult weaning, and spontaneous breathing trials were very, very difficult. He fast hyperventilated and so on. And he was an actor. So next time when we performed a spontaneous breathing trial, we went with 3, 4, 5 people and made a big applause. Bravo, bravo, bravo. And he opened his eyes because he was an actor. Of course, he reacts to applause. This is stimulating for him. And so we developed a lot of intervention, small rehab intervention to improve patients' awareness, cognition, and also try to improve their physical function. We made a lot with vibrations. We had little machines for vibration, and especially with neurological disturbances, they often can experience their proprioception, and started moving and so on. This was amazing. And so we had a experimental attitude. We asked the family what is famous, stimulating for him or for her, and then we tried to improve it. Not everything. We had one patient who was a train driver who was sitting in the front, and we thought about how can we stimulate him, but it was very, very difficult. We had another person who was
nowadays probably you get to put a virtual
VR.
reality with the train images, and it's probably going to stimulate him.
Yes, perfect. We had one truck driver, and a colleague really went after her shift, went to a main street and recorded traffic sounds and played to him next day, and he also became more awake and looked around where was the cars and so on. So this was very creative situation at last. Then I made some further educations and so on, and then later, much later, 2010, I noticed we interviewed patients again and learned that they made a lot of strange experiences. They had a lot of hallucinations, and they could not difference. Was it a dream or did it really happen? What I experienced on the ICU, and so we started, for example, with ICU diaries, and you know the idea, yes, and started writing, implemented ICU diaries in Germany, by the way, with a friend, because they were unknown before, and we made a lot of publications and lectures about it and so on. And today everyone knows about ICU diaries. It has been a good project. And practice implementation, we developed a kind of network. So we had 1-2 lectures on large conferences here in Germany, made 2-3 publications with positive examples, like patients who had been in the ICU and expressed their memories and difficulties and so on. And then we described how to write an ICU diary, handed it over to the patient, and wrote down what they experienced when they could read what happened in the ICU. So we had positive examples, and these were published. And then a lot of people get interested in this simple concept. And we made our first survey in Germany called ICUs. Are you using ICU diaries? And we found none. But we collected a lot of addresses. And 1 year later, we approached again to them. Would you like to join a network, a diary network? And they all said yes. And so we created a network with 70 people. And then Dirk Knück and I wrote newsletters summarizing new studies and so on. We had meetings and we joined conferences and met there and so on. And then the idea spread and spread and spread. We had more and more followers, and we become invited into conferences and so on. And we were integrated in teaching books. It's very, very important. Teaching books about critical care, and one chapter is about ICU diaries. So these were milestones for us. And I think 5 years later, yes, 2013, I just sent emails to the international champions. Ingrid Egerø from Denmark, Christina Jones from United Kingdom, Joe Bienvenu and from Johns Hopkins and so on. Would you like to join an international network? And they all said yes. This was crazy.
It was just like the same thing that happened in Germany. When you talk to people worldwide, they also wanted to be part of the network.
Yes. And then I made a website, icu-diary.org, and I used BatchGeo. BatchGeo is a simple tool where you can make maps. And then I added all our champions on this map and added all people, clinicians who wrote ICU diaries at their ICU as additional dots on this map. So the network became visible, and this was very, very important. And then Dale Needham invited us to the Johns Hopkins University to his annual conference, and we had 1 day only about ICU diaries. This was amazing. And I invited a lot of people from the whole world to meet there. And they came, of course, and we exchanged ideas, had a lot of discussions, and around about 100 clinicians, most from the United States, joined us. And this was also a good milestone, excellent milestone for the development. And now recently, in June and July, we had the first virtual ICU diary conference. And this was a new approach because we had not one day lasting conference, which is very hard, sitting at the PC or laptop 8 hours in a row. But we had every week a 90-minute session, so that everyone could join this. And I think this was well received, and we are hopefully get a publication about it. It's right now under review. So this was my first experience with creating a network. And similar, in 2011, we had a conference in Germany about early mobilization. David McWilliams from the United Kingdom came to us, hold a lecture. Exceptional, because Germans don't like to speak English. And David held his lecture on English. Crazy.
First of all, the first impression was not good.
the rest of the conference was in German. It was founded by a company, doesn't matter. But it was the first conference about early rehabilitation or early mobilization in critical care. And it was, again, well received. And we thought, wow, this is successful. People have an interest, nurses, physiotherapists, and also some physicians. So we have to continue with it. And then, I think half a year later, I had one lecture on a large conference about early rehabilitation. And a friend of mine could organize a large meeting room. And at the end of my lecture, the room was full with, 800 people. I said, hey, let's create a network for early mobilization. We will start after this lecture in room number E. Come to join the network of early mobilization. And then, not all the 800, but 70, again, 70 people joined this. And I had a similar approach, collected email addresses, made a website. And again, German nurses and physiotherapists don't like to read English studies. So your well-written Brazilian studies were not perceived by us because no one could read it. And I started summarizing very important studies about early rehabilitation at last, and started a monthly newsletter summarizing the newest evidence about early mobilization, at last the whole ABCDF approach. Sabrina Ekman, you know her, she is amazing. I'm a really big fan of her. She's really great. She joined the network some years later, and we write this newsletter together. So you should know it. And in each newsletter now, we are summarizing around about 40, 50 studies right now. It's a lot of work. I need 8 or 10 hours for this newsletter. It's a free work at last. And we make a larger descriptions of 4 or 5 studies in more detail, and send it out to 600 people in Germany who signed up for this newsletter. And so we distribute knowledge, and we founded a network for early mobilization. We performed the prevalence study. One of the first. This was very important for the network because we integrated all our colleagues. We had not much problems with ethic approval and data security and protection and so on. We just asked them, just report how many people did you mobilize on this special day. So workload was low, but a high output. And so we engaged a lot of colleagues, and they felt that they could contribute to the network, that they could participate, and then the network would grow and grow and grow. And we have annual meetings and a conference. Now we have virtual meetings 2 times a year. And 2 years ago, the German Network for Early Mobilization joined our critical care society, our German critical care society. It's called DV, doesn't matter. But this is public beneficial society, which is not an industrial company. It's a kind of beneficial society. So it has a lot of advantages from the government and so on and so on. And they integrated us. We have a section for early rehabilitation in this section. They distribute our newsletter, for example, and they help us with money. And now we come to the next point. After I visited Dale Needham's conference, I was so deeply impressed for his conference because there were people from Brazil, from Chile, from Japan, from Australia, and so the whole world came to Dale's conference. But it costs so much money. For me as a nurse, it's 3 days conference, 1,500 euro. The flight is expensive, the hotel and the conference, so it's unbelievable. So I asked myself, can we get an European conference instead going to Dale? And again, I just asked all the champions, what about a conference in Europe? And they said yes.
So I love the conference.
Yes, we had the first conference is also a long time ago, I think 2013, also in Vienna. And again, around 120 people come. We organized it by ourselves. So we spent our own money for it. It was organized in a hospital. The hospital spent a lecture room, spent food and so on. But we paid ourselves for the flight and hotel and things like that. But everyone felt it was an amazing idea. So people from Scandinavia came from across the whole Europe and so on. And then we continued nearly every year. Some conferences were larger. I think Copenhagen has been around about 300 people. Oslo last year had been nearly 350 and so on. So it was really amazing. Not during the pandemic, then we made a short pause, but now we continue and having every second year large conference. Next will be Paris next year in Paris.
2026. Yeah. we want that the podcast we both get to go there to see, to change experience and all that.
This would be amazing if you two would be there in Paris live streaming. Amazing. We should consider.
Who knows? I hope we get to do that.
Yes. Yeah. We are right now planning the program. Will be very, very interesting. Language will be English, of course. There will be a lot of challenges because the French people don't like to speak English.
As well.
Yes, as in Germany. And we're thinking about translation is used like using smartphones and subtitles and things like that. But I think Paris is worth to travel, no question. So it would be a good idea. And so it's crazy today because I'm Peter. I'm just a nurse. Well, of course, I studied, make a bachelor, master, my PhD, and also in Germany we've got a second thesis. It's like a rank of a professor. I don't work as a professor, but in my heart, I'm just a nurse trying to improve practice, getting research to the bedside, to patients and families and clinicians and so on. But using the internet and Zoom conferences and so on, the world becomes small and we are all connected to each other. And Sabrina Eckmann and I recently met in Tokyo. on the Australasian conference. So also there is a group supported by Peter Nydahl to support early rehabilitation. And the majority is our physiotherapists and other therapists as well. And we are all connected to each other. And sometimes we perform research projects together and share authorships, publications, and so on. So it's an amazing network today.
Yeah.
That's me, Peter.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say that, Peter, but it's not just a nurse. I think that you are just a nurse that's so connected to the benefits of rehabilitation, that you want to change the culture, and you want other professionals to deal with that. Because as you said, that your first year as a nurse, when you realized that there was something after the ICU discharge and you were worried about it, and I see in your speech that you are still worried about it, and so that makes a really huge difference for the patients. We need to work on culture change, on hospital culture change, because we know the benefits. We know that what happens when we don't mobilize the patients, when we don't make a good rehabilitation. But I think it's easier. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it's easier for the professionals just to stay calm and do not worry so much about it, because every time you worry, you have to work more. You have to make more research. You have to make more things on your duty. And I think that people prefer not to do that.
Wow. I completely agree. It's a kind of culture change. And I think my colleagues and I could perform a kind of culture change in Germany, or maybe also in other countries. Today in Germany, early mobilization is usual care. As Sabrina once said, what William Schweikert performed 2009 in his landmark study with physiotherapists, occupational therapists, nurse helpers, nurse assistants going around mobilizing patients. This is usual care today. And it's very difficult to make a difference on top, even on top. And even in Germany, we've got a lot of problems with staff at the bedside, not only for nurses, for physiotherapists as well. We have difficulties to perform early mobilization 2 times a day for 20 minutes, as it is recommended. But everyone has it in his or her mind. I should perform early mobilization. It's as important as other things. And it has a high priority. They don't even have the time. For example, if there is a resuscitation at the next bed, I cannot perform early mobilization. I have to help the other patient. But they all have it in their mind. But of course, if I don't find the time for it, it might increase the inner pressure. So my best days as a nurse at the bedside were those when I could mobilize the patient, or even when I could mobilize them out of bed with an ETT and mechanical ventilation, walking over the ICU and things like that. These were amazing days. But if I don't have the time for it, then it makes stress, and then it's a kind of bad day. Maybe I have a bad feeling in my mind, and we're talking about missed care. So when I don't have the opportunities to do everything what I wanted to do. And also our physiotherapists, sometimes when we have weekend shifts, the physiotherapists who is in charge come in and say, you've got 8 patients, I have time for 1. Who should I take care of? And of course, she also has to choose, and the other are in bed. In Germany, we have the deal during daytimes. We don't have night shifts. Sorry. Daytimes, 8 to 4, roundabout. the most mobilization is performed by physiotherapists usually, but when they are not present, we as nurses perform it. Yeah. So we know that 1/3 of out of bed mobilization is performed by nurses after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, for example. We mobilize patients in a chair for mouth cleaning in the evening, for meeting the family, for watching TV or whatever, or even during the night shift. We nurses do it, but usually it's performed by physiotherapists. But the pressure is increasing, and that's not easy to deal with it. Sorry.
Yeah. My question is, how can interprofessional collaboration improve mobilization practices in the ICU? How can we work together for this?
3 aspects. You mentioned beer. Making a party is very, very important. So maybe after the shift, go into the pub or pizza or whatever you have, restaurant, and have a nice evening together with your team. That's very, very important. We have sometimes we celebrate birthdays, for example, or anniversaries and so on. We invite the teams, nurses, physicians, therapists, even the cleaning staff is invited to have a good time. So they learn each other and value each other. So next day, Deborah, when you come around and say, what about mobilization? Okay, we had 3 beers yesterday evening. I say yes. This is kind of social connectedness, social relationship, trust, empathy, and so on and so on. But this also means that you come back on my ICU next day. I said on my ICU. So usually nurses are working always on the same ICU in Germany. They don't rotate. That means this ICU feels like home. In Germany, we've got on 1/3 of ICUs dedicated physiotherapists. That means it's the same person coming every day, and we know each other very well. I know the strong aspects and the weak aspects of the physiotherapist, and they know my weak and strong aspects. But when the physiotherapist is unknown to me, I'm not sure if I can trust him or her. So, and he or she comes into my ICU. So they have to introduce themselves and so on and so on. So there are a lot of social aspects which are very, very important to perform and improve early mobilization. And again, especially when you've got rotating stuff, you need rules. You need rules. And in Germany, we've got quality criteria, 10 quality criteria for performing good intensive care medicine. This belongs also to a physician, like early antibiotics for sepsis, for example, performing interdisciplinary rounds, talking with the families, and performing early mobilization. Some years ago, physiotherapists could only mobilize those patients who get an command by the physician. Let's perform mobilization by Mr. Miller, for example. Today, we've got different rules. The rule is today, every patient should be mobilized unless the physician says that a patient has to stay in bed. And this has to be documented and written, reported. So every patient has to be mobilized. And this improved our rate of mobilization, of course, because it's a law, it's a rule. Everyone has to be mobilized. And then Sabrina came, perform an assessment, CPACs, for example, and plan mobilization together with a team. That means physiotherapist comes in at, 7:30, goes around, how can we mobilize, which time would be best, and so on. There is an investigation, CT scan of the brain or whatever, but we can coordinate it. And then let's start working. Sorry.
It's a nice thing that we have one paper from 3 different hospitals in the States when they got to have early mobilization: the Wake Forest, the California University Hospital, and Johns Hopkins. And one of the things they did was that they had to change the prescription, the physician prescription, instead of not mobilizing this patient. All the patients should mobilize as soon as possible. Yes. And it's like a little simple thing that we do, and we change the reality. It's not that bad rest is good. Bad rest is bad. We are going to do that just in some really special cases. And that's one thing that we would like to ask you. And I think you have said some of those things. Are they small interventions, small things we do for rehabilitation? Do they have this main role? Are they the key thought that we need to get better rehabilitation? Like the ICU diaries and make things, stimulate the patients and change the culture that all the family inside the ICU. Do you think that's one way for better rehabilitation?
Yes, of course. So I like the ABCDF approach, of course. And Heidi Engel, you know her from California. She said thinking ABCDF is wrong, because you start thinking in pharmacological dimensions, like pain, analgesia, sedation, both, and things like that. You have to turn it around. That means you should call it F to A bundle. Invite the family, perform early mobilization, manage delirium and pain, of course. And if only in the case, if all of this is not enough, then you can start thinking about sedation. But if the family is present at the bedside 24 hours, or 6 or 8 or 10 hours, and patients are awake and mobile and so on, they have a better tolerance for the endotracheal tube, by the way. They have a better rehabilitation, shorter stay in the ICU. So there are a lot of benefits for it. If you just change your mindset, and the awake participating patient, this is our goal. This is still a problem in Germany, because we learn deep sedated patients are good patients and so on.
Yes, that's the same here in Brazil. It's difficult to change that.
Yeah, but step by step, slowly, we change this as well. And we have a lot of good hospitals here with publications, videos, even in the TV, showing awake patients, walking patients on the ICUs, and these videos change the mindset of clinicians, nurses, physiotherapists, and especially physicians. We have
okay. No,
I'm sorry. We have a curricula, a teaching course for early rehabilitation, addressed to physiotherapists, but also nurses, and most important, physicians. Should be part of
that for all the 3 different professionals formation, graduation.
Yes, but they should join all together in such a 2-day lasting course for early rehabilitation. So I think it's very, very important that physicians learn how to mobilize patients, because they order the level of mobilization. And it's very important that they can see it's feasible to have awake patients on the ETT, on a trach, and being awake, being mobile, watching TV, interacting with the family, and so on. It's very important. Yeah, and it works, of course.
Yeah. And how do you see the early mobilization in the next 5, 10 years, the next years?
VR glasses, very important. I think we made some first experiments with ICU patients, most for calming down, watching the beach, for example, hearing wave sounds and forest sounds and things like that. But also seeing people moving, for example. If I have a first-person view on a person who turns around, moves the body upwards, sitting on the edge of bed, then if I see such a video, my brain is becoming active. You know it as well. I start all my mobility programs in my head. I don't do it, but I make mental training. And this could be a great opportunity, using VR glasses, preparing for mobility, and then I remove it or make an immersive view.
Yeah.
Yes, and then I do early mobilization together with my physiotherapist, because they know what was shown to me, and then we can exactly perform this mobilization, what I just viewed. Would be an interesting idea. We've got robotics in Germany, some companies. Evidence is limited because it's big things. It's kind of moving bad at last. It's a lot of technique. Benefit is not shown yet, but they make pilot studies and things like that. Neuromuscular electrical stimulation. We've got a lot of non-responders, but for some patients, it's really a good idea. So we have to identify the best population for them. They need more research, of course. Cycling, we did it since 20 years. But again, I think using feedback. This was a video from Brazil. I think so. They showed a video of cycling people. Cycling,
like in the park or something like that.
Ideal from your hometown, and when you cycle faster, the video goes faster. So you get a kind of biofeedback, and then this is really motivating for them. We don't know the evidence, the outcome, if it makes better outcome or whatever, but I think it's a very interesting idea. So using virtual reality and things like that. And yes, the most important thing, I think also from Brazil, was group therapy of ICU patients. Because what we learned from interviews of patients, if the other patient next to you is mobile, then you are more mobile by yourself, because you also want to sit in a chair and walk over the floor and so on. And I think
you find out that's feasible, that you can do it as well.
Yes. If the other patient is just lying in bed, you expect yourself also as being bedridden, because the other doesn't move at all. But if the other would be mobile, of course I want to be mobile as well. Painkillers, everything, okay, take it. But then, and I saw people playing volleyball with each other on the ICU. This is brilliant, really brilliant. And I really like using table football. It's a small thing you can use in pubs and so on. Just play table kicker or whatever. So there are a lot of games. Patients can play against each other, improving rehabilitation, but we don't know anything about it. So it would be great to collaborate in research. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I think that me and Deborah, we also think the same way. We needed to have the idea, and we need to collaborate with research so we can give answers for what's good and what's not good. And if it's not good, that's not a problem with us. It's just like we're going to choose another intervention and keep looking for the better ones.
Yes. Do you know Kate Tantam from United Kingdom?
Yeah.
Great. Invite her as well. She has a lot of brilliant ideas. Animal-assisted therapy, her secret ICU garden when patients go out into the sunshine and so on. So she has a lot of amazing ideas. I'm a big fan of her.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are working on a paper with her.
Great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Peter, and about the professionals, physiotherapists, nurses of the future. How do you think about this? What's the abilities and how do you see this?
Oh, In Germany, we have a culture shift towards more academic degrees in nursing, also in physiotherapists and occupational therapists, speech and swallow therapists as well. And with this, we recently changed the law that nurses get more responsibilities, that they can order themselves some kind of drugs for diabetic patients, for patients with chronic wounds and things like that. So they're becoming more responsibility for performing some activities, nursing activities. And the same should happen to physiotherapists, for example, to occupational therapists. So the autonomy of these professions should increase, that you go into the ICU, make an assessment and say, yes, of course, I order mobility for Mr. Miller, for example. This is not the physician, it's your profession. And usually, if the autonomy is by one profession, they use it, and the ordering of mobility will increase, of course. Not everyone likes it. Nurses are, by culture and history, are used to have no responsibility. Some people are afraid of taking responsibility because if something happens, I will go to jail.
You're gonna be responsible for that.
Yes. No one will go to jail because the hospital will protect you and your insurance and so on and so on. But they are afraid of being blamed, it was you who did it, and so on. So we need also a kind of culture change, how to deal with failures. That's very, very important. The question is not who was it, but how could it happen, and so on. So there are a lot of changes required, but I think this will be the future. Taking more responsibility, getting more autonomy, but also having more assessments, having more protocols, standardized protocols, and so on, having more knowledge, more evidence for or against some rehab activities, and so on. I think this, and having more technique, artificial intelligence, and calculating the best rehab program for Mrs. Miller and things like that.
That's great. Do you know Rick Gosling?
Yes, of course. I know him.
Yeah.
He's great.
We had him in the podcast, and he said something about that when we asked about the future, and he said that we need to be responsible. We need to do the intervention and be responsible to know how is it working or not working, and be responsible for what we do.
Yes. Yes.
And that's
perfect.
That's really important.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we have a lot of challenges for the future, but I think that we have been doing well. I think Deborah shares the same opinion, that we have a much better space now in the ICU for rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Like you said, rehabilitation is now the usual care, and probably the research that we have today and the next ones, it's going to change some prescription kind of protocols to know what intervention is better, in what intensity, and that kind of thing. But I think we have all been going to a better place with rehabilitation. Yeah, yes. I think we have a lot of that.
Yeah,
and I know it's a really interesting and great talk, but our time for this episode is almost at the end, and I hope we get to talk again at other possibilities and the conferences, and who knows, maybe in Paris next year and something like that. I want to say, Peter, that your enthusiasm it's so great and so inspiring, because show us that you really believe in rehabilitation, and you really believe that all the professionals need to understand and work for it, because it brings better results for the patient. So it's really inspiring to me, and I hope that with this episode we get this inspirational talk to other people as well. We have a routine here. Oh, no problem. Thank you for being here with us. We have a routine here that all the episodes, if you have a tip, like something different, a book, a movie, or something like that, we can bring it on. And I think that my tip for this episode is the movie The Chicken Run. Have you seen the cartoon, The Chicken Run? There are a lot of chickens. They are just put together, and they need to make a plan to escape from the farm. And it's an old movie, a cartoon, and I think that's explain what we should do as ICU professional. We got to work together for the same goal. That's for the patient, better outcomes and better discharge and all that.
Yeah, even if it's a chicken run, I'm fine.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, it's a great. So I'm gonna leave my tank. I'm gonna pass to Deborah the word before we go to the final words at the episode. Thanks a lot, Peter.
Thank you too.
Peter, always is very special talking and hear you. I don't know. I think you don't remember, but in the past conference, you walked and saw my poster. Yes, Brazilian poster, the only Brazilian poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very special for me that you are with us on the podcast today. And thank you very much for your time, and see you later in the next conference.
Yes, thank you too. It was amazing, a great pleasure. And I like the communication, exchange of ideas and so on. It was amazing. And kind regards to all from Brazil and South America and everywhere who are listening to this amazing podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
A lot. Thank you, Deborah, as well. And we see everybody on the next episode. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.